This is a podcast from The Bugle.
The Eiffel Tower towers proudly in the background. The French passion for drama infuses the excitement of the Olympics with extra sexiness, extra je ne sais quoi, extra moustache on a baguette, if you know what I mean. The Louvre, the l'Orangerie, the Champs-Élysées, the Seine, an onion in a beret, and all of it echoing with the triumphant sound of the Gargle. This is the Gargle. Welcome, the sonic glossy magazine to the Bugle's audio newspaper for a visual world. We bring you all of the news and none of the politics. I'm your host, Alice Fraser, and your guest editors for this week's edition of the magazine are Joz Norris. Welcome.
Hello. Lovely intro. Made me feel sort of excited about the Olympics, which I don't normally get.
I'm very honoured to have brought you into the passion of the rings.
Now. That was what I needed. I just needed the scene set.
And Alasdair Tremblay-Birchall, welcome.
Hello, welcome to you, and you got me really excited about facial hair on bread.
Yeah, normally a bad thing, only in France a good thing. Before we put ourselves down on the starting blocks and plunge into the sprint that is this week's top stories, let's have a look at the front cover of the magazine and the satirical cartoon. The front cover this week, the front cover model is Olympic pole vault saboteur Anthony Ammirati's giant penis, proving that there is a better way than winning the Olympics to get laid after competing in the Olympics. And it's going viral for having a penis in the right place at the right time. That is the better way. He just got offered, did you hear this? He got offered $250,000 to do porn by a pornography website.
Because he's got the most famous penis in the world now.
Well, right, yeah, it's a viral penis in the best possible way.
I'd ask for more. I think he can ask for more than that.
Yeah.
I feel like he could.
What is this scene going to look like? Is he supposed to hold his penis and then run towards the lady like that?
He tries to leap over her head, but he doesn't quite clear it. Yeah. I feel like it opens up a whole new scope to the whole, like, I only read Playboy for the articles sort of level of excuses. You know, I'm only watching Bang Bus for the Olympic level athleticism and cardiovascular fitness. The satirical cartoon this week is a picture of the penis of the white nationalist rioter who copped a friendly fire brick to the nads from one of his fellow xenophobic thugs, proving that there is a worse way to never get laid after being on television for brutally targeting vulnerable refugees, and it's going viral for having a penis in the right place at the right time.
I hear people are offering to let him get hit by another brick for free.
Yeah, they're going to pay him $2.50 to do pornography where someone throws a brick at his nads. There's a niche. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
There is a niche. I've not seen very much pornography in my life, but I'm always, like, astonished by the bad acting because they're doing something that presumably they're enjoying.
Sure. Yeah.
And at no point do they look like they're enjoying it.
Have you ever seen a film called, what's it called? Fateful Findings by Neil Breen?
No.
It's great. He's one of these sort of like mad people who went to Hollywood with some money in his pocket and then went, well, I'll do everything. I can make the entire film. So he writes it, directs it, produces it. I'm pretty certain all the actors in it are former porn actors that are trying to kind of make their break into like, oh, this is a proper film. And they're all dreadful. It's very sweet. It's nice to see them in a new context, you know?
Yeah, it's a reverse striptease.
Wait, they're putting their clothes on to a cacophonous sound? I'm always surprised at how angry people's faces seem to be in pornography. People seem more angry like that. I don't know why. Anyway, maybe I don't have sex correctly.
Maybe you have too joyful and tempting.
Yeah. It's supposed to be the worst bit of your day.
I have a really big smile on my face. Like I'm taking a school photo. Anyway.
I feel like all Congress should end with a high five. I'm very positive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that brings us to our top story this week. This is the news that fewer than 50% of young people in the United Kingdom are still tuning in to live television. Joz Norris, you used to be very three-dimensional, and now you're much more flat screen. Can you unpack this story for us?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, I thought this was quite a good statistic. 48% apparently of young people are watching live TV these days, and I think the thing that will make the difference on that stat is whether or not that takes into account the people that are only half watching. Because I think most young people now are watching it with a phone in their hand, so it's only really got 50% of their attention anyway. So if they have taken that into account, then that means that 96% of young people are watching live TV. They're only giving it half their attention, and I think that's great. That's nearly all of them. So I think this is cause for celebration. Obviously, if they haven't taken it into account, then that means it's 24%, which is not great. But I've got some ideas of how to get people back into watching live TV, and these are just genuine. I've actually thought about this. These aren't entirely like joke suggestions, and I think this would work. I reckon one potential solution is that you hide Easter eggs throughout the TV schedules on all the different channels. So it's like Where's Wally? You have Wally hidden in the background of various programs across different channels. So he's on I'm a Celebrity, he's on Bake Off, he's on Doctor Who, and the first person to find him in all his hiding places on that day gets a prize. So you have to be like hopping around the channels and watching live. And my other idea is you launch a big flagship show, a really like compelling show that everybody wants to watch, and you don't tell people when it's on. It's going to randomly interrupt a broadcast at some point, and you just have to be there for it. And if you miss it, you miss it, and it won't be on catch up. And I was thinking like it has to be something that as soon as people hear about it, they're like, I've got to see it. So I've got David Tennant teaching David Attenborough how to make a pavlova on top of the Burj Khalifa, because that's got kind of beloved figures, but there's also danger, and people love to watch people like learning a skill. I've got Janelle Monáe teaching Matthew McFadden to tap dance in shark-infested waters. It's this kind of thing that when you hear it, you go, well, yeah, I have to watch that. But the only way to watch it is to just be on telly, be watching it the whole time. And I genuinely think that's a great idea. I don't know how expensive those shows are to make, though. Would insurance be a problem?
It's 2 cast members.
Bear Grylls grilling an actual bear about its family life.
It's a good idea. I also like the bit where you just make a really good flagship TV show.
Yeah, just do that. That's my simple solution.
Just make some unmissable TV.
Yeah.
Just make the best thing that's ever been made.
Alasdair, are you 48% of people, or are you on the 52% of people end?
I'm in the 48% of people who are not really watching it. And somebody who's even finding it hard to keep a TV in my life, harder and harder to justify. But I think that also 48% of people are also finding it difficult to get from having a thought about wanting to do something in their phone and then getting to that thing in their phone. I think it's just like the tech companies have found out a way of trapping our minds. They've given us the Venus flytrap of apps, where all we got to do is just dip one foot in, and then we're half stuck, and then a second foot in, and then suddenly the trap comes down, and an hour and a half has gone by. It said in the article that while those in the 25 to 34 age group reported watching an hour and 3 minutes of shared content each week. I mean, yeah, maybe in the first hour and 3 minutes of Monday morning. That seems insane to me. That they're saying an hour and 3 minutes of watching shared content online. I don't know. I think that they've gotten too good at trapping us. And I feel like the only solution is that tech billionaires themselves need to be punished by having their own minds trapped within their bodies. So some kind of, maybe this is too mean, locked-in syndrome. And then I will feel satisfied that they are getting the punishment that is equal to the crime.
It's very odd because I'm now at the age and a number of children where I'll walk into a room and forget why I walked into a room, and then have to walk out and walk back in. But now I find myself also doing that with my phone. I'm like, I was going to do something on my phone, and I've forgotten what it was, and I have to close the phone and put it down and then walk away from it and then be like, aha, it was a very important email. I had to book a physiotherapist appointment or whatever it happens to be. But I can't watch real content, the kind of scrolling real content, because I've spent the last decade and a half of my life focusing really hard on creating narratives. So when I get like 10 random clips in a row, my brain is like, but why that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've actually been inoculated in some way, and you're like a special one, and we need to take your blood and inject it into everybody else's.
I'm the daywalker. I'm the real daywalker. Your ad section now, because you can't be what you can't buy. And you can't live life lying down, but why should that mean you have to use your legs? Chair. Outsource standing. And this episode of the podcast is brought to you by the alpaca. Alpacas, indecision that spits. Alpacas halfway between a sheep and a giraffe. Alpacas, not a kind of hiking gear. We live in troubled times. Some people just want to see the world in black and white, and for those people, there's being a dog. Yes, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Doggatronic Metaphorizer 5000 Model D. Essentially a Roomba with a Bacta tank strapped to it, this portable transformer will turn you into dog whenever you need a get-out-of-jail-free card. Bad time at work? Escape that board meeting by turning into a golden retriever. Awkward moment on a date? Become the dog from Lady and the Tramp. Getting out of jail free? Nobody sets bail for a dog. The Doggatronic Metaphorizer 5000 Model D, on sale today. It's hot in some places right now, and you might be worried about your local wildlife. It doesn't feel fair that we've destroyed their natural habitat and left them to be hot and outside. Soothe your conscience by leaving out half a glass of water for your local thirsty wild creatures. It's marginally more than the least you could possibly do. Half a glass of water. Liquid activism. Now it's time for your space news. Space news now, and this is the news that apparently our atmosphere is playing noughts and crosses. Alasdair Tremblay-Birchall, you've looked up at the stars and dreamed. Can you unpack this story for us?
Yes, I yearn constantly. Yes, it seems that scientists have spotted unexpected shapes in the ionosphere, finding both C-shaped structures and X-shaped, formerly Twitter-shaped structures. Now, what was happening is that they would often see these shapes in the patterns, in the like interference patterns of the ions and things like that, up where the telecommunications occur and things like that, when there was like volcanoes and different things like that. But NASA has been looking recently when those things aren't happening, and they've noticed that there's C and X shapes there all the time. Now, I personally think that it's the atmosphere celebrating Charlie XCX's declaring that Kamala is brat. Obviously, that's, obviously we don't get into politics in this show, but, with the world getting hotter, who's getting hotter than the atmosphere? And I think maybe the atmosphere has got too hot, and possibly it's starting to take sides. And, but I think what we really have forgotten, the lessons of the last few years, both with this Pentagon UFO stuff and the stories from a year ago or 2 years ago of the Chinese spy balloon, is remember that week after the Chinese spy balloon where America was just shooting down random stuff that they found in the sky and ended up being like kids' projects and plastic bags, and they were just using full-on missiles. I think the lessons that we learned after that was that we just have to stop looking up, right? There's too much going on up there, right? It's none of our business. There's a lot of it, right? It hurts our neck to look that way anyway. I think it's just from upwards, up from basically the head height onwards. It's none of our business. And I think that we just leave it to the stars. We'll just call that space from now on.
Generic space. Yeah, anything above a bird can look after itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Joz?
So I'm afraid I had a strong emotional reaction to this article, because I think I've come on this podcast before and talked about the fact that I don't like space-related news. I find it very frustrating because I have no frame of reference for it. I just don't think it's relevant. And this article was, I think, the worst offender I've ever read. It's very long, this story, and I was scrolling through it trying to work out like what's the point of this, and I was trying to read. There's all these like animated infographics, and it's this thing about like oh, we found particles that are invisible, but they look like X's and C. I don't know what's supposed to be in space. And I don't know. I assume space is full of invisible things that are many different shapes. I don't know why it's interesting that they're shaped like C's and X's. There was no attempt to explain any of it. There's this thing here that shows like the magnetic poles around the Earth. I don't know what it... I got angrier and angrier reading down this thing, trying to work out like what does this mean? What are you actually saying? And then right down the bottom, like nearly at the bottom of the article, there's this bit that says, during the May 10th geomagnetic storm that hit Earth, tractor company John Deere reported that some customers reliant on GPS for precision farming experienced a disruption. And I thought, well, then that's the story. Now I get it. Like, if it disrupts GPS and it means tractors don't know where to go, I care about that. I want tractors to know where they're going. So I think this should have led with Earth tractors in trouble because space is full of alphabet. And then I'd have had some reason to care while I was reading it. I'd be like, oh, I wonder what's going on with these tractors. But I thought it was... I'm sorry to whichever scientist did all the research and put this article together. I'm sure they did a lot of work. I personally would have preferred them to lead with the tractor stuff, because I just found myself reading the whole thing and going, oh, who cares? It's space, you know?
But it's not just space, it's tractors.
Yeah,
this is the thing
now I
about
realise
space.
I was being overly reactionary, and actually this is a huge problem.
I mean, but this is the problem. You feel like space is far away, but actually, I hate to break it to you, we are in space right now.
I know. I've got to be less ignorant of what it's doing. But you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, of course there's stuff.
Yeah, and we're on a letter O shaped planet.
Yeah,
roughly.
They're everywhere. Letters are everywhere if you look for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's also strange because if like when two C shapes get pretty close, that also looks like a W, which is even more worrying.
Oh, yeah.
You
Do you reckon
get
you
two
can
of
make
those.
every letter out of X and C? You probably can.
I mean, I think if
That's one of those statements that sounds like, yeah, until you actually think about it for even half of a second, and it's absolutely not
I think
true.
you could do it. An X is basically a T, isn't it? So that's T done.
yeah,
I mean, in the same way as you can make a circle out of little squares.
Yeah.
Like,
I reckon if you get a couple of
Sure.
C's on one side of an X, you could probably make a B.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
yeah, you can build a toilet cubicle with Coke bottles, but it doesn't mean that you should.
This is what they should be studying.
Yeah. What's the universe writing?
And that brings me to our reviews section. As you know, we get our guest editors to review something out of 5 stars every week. Joz, what have you brought in for us this week?
I have decided to review the experience of realising that the reason wasps keep coming into your kitchen is not because there is a wasp's nest in the ventilation shaft, but in fact because there is a wasp's nest in next door's ventilation shaft, and the wasps keep flying into your one because they are confused. So that's the experience I'm reviewing. My review, I would say this experience is a real roller coaster. It's a real kind of like up and down thing. And as you go through it, you move through all 10 of the main emotions. That's dread, stress, fear, irritation, confusion, dawning realization, relief, joy, pity, and amusement. You go through all of those. And finally, you resign yourself to simply killing every wasp that enters until your girlfriend tells you that she thinks that when wasps die, they release a chemical that tells other wasps to come and avenge them. And you're not 100% sure about this, but it sounds like it's probably not worth risking it. So you then become a friend to the wasps, and every time they come in, you become a sort of kind caretaker, and you put them under a glass and you put them out of the window and help them to freedom. And in that way, you sort of help them like weary pilgrims on their way, and they sing songs about you, and you become a sort of a god to them. So it's a real mixed bag. I would have to give it 3 out of 5 overall for that journey from kind of despair to elation to immortality in a way. I can't recommend it, nor can I say that it's all bad. Give it a try.
This is why no truly great art gets 5 stars across the board, because by necessity, something that contains both the sublime and the tragic is going to even out at about 3 stars.
Yeah. It's got to provoke complicated emotions. I feel sorry for these guys. I think they'll die soon. I think they die in the autumn, do they?
It's coming for us all eventually.
The autumn.
Alasdair, what have you brought for us?
Well, mine is also insect-based. I've in the last couple of days had a job where I've had to look at a lot of photos of insects, and it made me feel yuck But the experience, the specific experience that I want to review is looking at really close-up photos of insects. Now, looking at really close-up photos of insects is even more yuck. One of the main things is that they have hairs as well, and their hairs are proportional to their little gross faces, which you would think a hair would be like an arm to them, but it's not. It's just a hair. They have their own hair. That would be like our hairs. Okay? So firstly, you have to look at that. And when you see their hairs and their bodies being proportional to each other, it makes you think that the bugs could be the same size as you. Right? And then you look at their disgusting, emotionless faces, and you think, this thing doesn't like me at all, and it probably wouldn't like me, because these things, a lot of insects perform sexual cannibalism, right? Which means that they will eat people that are their lovers. So me, who isn't even one of their own species, what chance do I have of not being eaten? And I probably won't even get to have sex with them. All right? And so there's that, and I have metamorphosis envy. So I am giving it 4 stars, 1 star for the actual looking and the experience, and 3 stars because it really made me feel something, and I love that.
And that brings us to our second last story, our TikTok story of the week. We don't always have a TikTok story, but when we do, it's this one, which is that the US government has filed a new lawsuit against TikTok for invading the privacy of children. Alasdair, you have some children. You are also in the same, more or less, landmass as this act of government. Can you unpack this story for us?
Sure. Well, the United States, as you know, has already had a problem with TikTok for a while, and its parent company, ByteDance. And at this time, they are going after TikTok because they have not been... they have been collecting the information of children. They've been allowing children to create accounts, create videos and things like that, and message people and whatnot. And then... usually, according to the law in America, in order to do this, they need to be able to get need to get permission from the parents, and they have not been getting that, and they have been continuing to do it. And then when parents ask to have the things deleted, they've been making it very difficult. Now, I can understand this. I mean, obviously, I hate that they're blaming the parent company. Maybe some child companies are just born evil, But I think that, deep down, TikTok and ByteDance, they just understand that actually kids just don't have any secrets. And actually, none of the info is of any value. It's just every sentence is just like somebody telling you their dream, This doesn't matter. This is just a great way for the Americans to attack this company that they think that maybe China is using to spy on people, right? I'm admitting that I do think it is a great tactic, and they're doing really good. And it's been, I think the companies now, TikTok's already been banned in Texas, and I find that really entertaining because all of the YouTube and the stand-up comedians are moving to Austin, and I think that's really great.
Joz?
My favourite bit of this article was a spokesperson for TikTok. Their defence on this latest lawsuit was they said, "We disagree with these allegations, many of which relate to past events." And I think that's a great new approach to law enforcement, to be able to go, no, we did this. This was in the past. Not denying it, but that's in the past. And I feel like it's the implication is that there's a very narrow window where you can only prosecute for a crime that's happening in the present. Because I don't think they can be talking about the future. That's like Minority Report, and that's the realm of sci-fi. So I think what they want is to only be prosecuted for the things they're doing now. And if you miss that window, then they go, well, sorry, we did it. There's also a great bit where they say, when they're trying to justify the fact that some of this stuff has slipped through the net and they've not been fully doing what they're supposed to do. One of their defenses was that they said that the moderators only have a few seconds to make their decision on each bit of content, which I always imagined that the moderators on TikTok like their job is to kind of sit and look at each. It implies that the moderators are also addicted to TikTok and are just sat there scrolling and going, yeah, that's porn, that's hate speech, yeah, whatever. Oh no, I let it through.
Or that they're in a dystopian present where they're being forced to do enormous quantities of work at an underpaid rate and churn through content without real regard for the safety of the people who they're meant to be protecting, hypothetically.
Sure.
It's nice to know they're as addicted as the rest of us, though. It's quite comforting.
And that brings us to our final story of this week's episode of The Gargle, and this is Olympics news. The real winner of the Olympics, I think, this year is Snoop Dogg, who is currently a correspondent for the Olympics in Paris, and he seems to be just enjoying himself to a level that is extraordinary, including dressing up like an equestrian and dancing with some horses. Joz, you've had a dance with a horse. Can you unpack this story?
Yeah, best day of my life. I loved that day. This is the story that... So I didn't realise while reading this article that Snoop Dogg was the official correspondent for NBC on the Olympics. So initially I thought this was a story just about the fact that he was there and he was a huge fan. It's a bit like my Where's Wally idea. This idea that like you have a kind of prominent figure in the background of lots of different things and you go, oh, there he is, what's he doing now? And he has been wearing different outfits. He's been dressing up in horse riding gear for dressage, and I think he's been dressing up and doing like judo in the background of some of the martial arts ones or something like that. So initially I thought, this is great. This is exactly my idea and this is going to save live TV. People can spot him and then write in and go, I saw him here. I saw him at the velodrome, and then they get their reward. And then it revealed, this article, that he's been hired by NBC and he's there to cover the Olympics, which sort of just means that he's doing his job, basically. Like, he's at the Olympics, he's enjoying it, and he's getting the viewers into a sense, like, his purpose is to make the viewers enjoy the thing. So the entire news story is just Snoop Dogg's good at his job.
Well, this is the thing about Snoop Dogg, is that he has managed to articulate a persona that is so sort of densely itself that it sort of transcends context.
Yeah.
You know, with the kinds of work that he has done, you would say that many, many, many years ago he sold out, and yet he maintains the essential Snoop Doggness at its heart that feels like, while he may have sort of ephemerally sold out, he's still fully representing the Snoop Dogg brand.
Yeah. It's like having a news story about the athletes themselves being good. Like this news story, basically the headline is everyone's enjoying Snoop Dogg at the Olympics, but you could also have one that says the athletes this year are really good. People are tuning in. I feel like it's a fake story, you know.
Sure.
Alasdair?
This story really worried me for people who don't know who Snoop Dogg is and who are listening to the Olympics on the radio and think that the Olympics have been plagued with some kind of prying canine, right? But the thing is that he's actually been really good, right? I would say that he's been D-O-double-G-whiz fantastic, right? And why I think he's been good is because he just got this off of, having a little kind of thing at the Tokyo Olympics with Kevin Hart where they would just watch some highlight clips and then make little comments, right? And his comments were enjoyed so much that he made it to the Olympics, which I think for those of us who love to make little comments as a job, which, is some of us present, right? I think that this has created a new Olympics, which is where we can now practice and we can now put up our things and train day in and day out to get our little comments noticed in the same way, and then eventually we can go to the little comment Olympics, which is the regular Olympics, but then we dress up in funny clothes and we get to go and be there. And I think every country should get to do that. I think every country, Australia could send our own either rapper or a little comment person. We could send Iggy Azalea maybe as our rapper. I don't know which accent she would do, her Australian accent or the her black accent that she kind of uses when she raps. But whichever fits, I guess, depending on the event.
My favorite thing about Snoop Dogg is just like you were saying, the fact that he's never really had to change the essence of who he is, and that's more or less true. Except that, didn't he used to be called Snoop Doggy Dogg? That was his name for a bit, and then he changed it to Snoop Dogg. And I love the idea of going by Snoop Doggy Dogg, and then one day going, this is silly. This is embarrassing. I got to take the
It's
doggy.
just slightly too much dogginess.
Yeah. They go, I won't use my real. I'll still be called Snoop Dogg. I still want a stupid name, but I've gone too far. I've gone beyond. And he's classy now.
Well, I feel like at the early stages of his career, it might have been considered a trademark infringement on the original Snoop Dogg, who was Snoopy the dog from Peanuts cartoons. And it was only once he'd established in his own right his identity as Snoop that he was sufficiently able to distance himself from the dogginess of it all.
So do you think that he had all variations early on where it was Snoop, Snoopy, Doggy, Dog, like that?
Snoop the snooping Snoop Dogg.
I also liked that a few years ago he had a sort of a rebrand where I think he was saying that maybe he had been he was the reincarnation of Bob Marley, and he started going by Snoop Lion very briefly.
Really?
And then I like that he pulled that back.
Yeah.
And then he's just gone back to Dog.
I can't do that.
And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of The Gargle. I'm flipping through the ads at the back. Joz, have you got anything to plug?
I'm doing 3 work-in-progress shows in Edinburgh next week, by which I mean 3 performances of one show, not 3 different shows. That would be insane. And they're at Monkey Barrel on the 12th to the 14th in Edinburgh, so if you're at the Fringe, come along to that. And if it's all right to plug 2 things, in October I'm running a night of short film screenings and script readings at the Pleasance in Islington called Egg Box, where we're trying to showcase a bunch of kind of great work made by the scripted comedy community, writers and filmmakers and directors. That's on the 1st of October at Pleasance, so if you're in London and want to see some cool new films, come on down to that as well. They're all on my website or on my social media.
That sounds brilliant and excellent. If you are in Edinburgh, go check out as many Garglers as you possibly can and tweet us about it at Hello Garglers or on various other social media platforms that you are on. Alasdair, have you got anything to plug?
At the moment, I'll just plug Two in the Think Tank, which is the podcast I do with Andy Matthews, and it's just where we come up with dumb sketch ideas.
They are excellent sketch ideas.
Thank you so much. It's really our life's work. We have now 400 and something episodes, and it's what I'm leaving to my children. When I die, they can listen to that and find out who I really am, or maybe reconstruct me using some kind of ear-based genetics.
I mean, I highly recommend it. It is a podcast that I listen to, so Two in the Think Tank. Alasdair Tremblay-Birchall and Andy Matthews, great minds, thinking very differently in that context. I'll be in London from the 1st of September this month, and on the 8th of September I'm running a writers intensive workshop at the Bread and Butter Club in London, the Bread and Butter Lounge in London, from midday till 4 p.m. It's an intensive writers workshop and masterclass. If you'd like to come along, whether you've got something that you've got on the boil, or you just kind of want to crack out of a period of writer's block, come along there. Patreon.com/Alice Fraser is the place to go. That's a one-stop shop for all of my stuff. You don't have to sign up to get access to the application form. You just have to go there. Patreon.com/Alice Fraser. This is a Bugle podcast and Alice Fraser production. Your editor is Ped Hunter. Your executive producer is Chris Skinner. I'll talk to you again next week.
You can listen to other programmes from The Bugle, including The Bugle, Catharsis, Tiny Revolutions, Top Stories and The Gargle, wherever you find your podcasts.